Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, E-Steam The Sands of Time. It's action and adventure in ancient Egypt in this terrific teen time travel romance. Get your copy of E-Steam The Sands of Time at your favorite online bookseller today. I had the displeasure of watching the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer yesterday, and after watching that trailer, I have a question for Kevin Feige and the executives at Marvel Studios and for Bob Iger at Disney. Where is Spider-Man? Because in two movies that are supposed to have featured Spider-Man, Spider-Man Homecoming and Spider-Man Far From Home, we have not seen anything related to Spider-Man's story in either of these films. After looking at this trailer, it looks like to me that we are getting further and further away from the source material, and instead of us getting a story that is true to who Spider-Man is and Spider-Man's character, what we're getting is a Disneyfication of this character, and instead of us seeing Peter Parker taking on his rogues gallery, what we're getting is a watered-down version of Agent Cody Banks playing Spider-Man. Because when I look at this trailer, I don't see anything that makes me see anything from any of the Spider-Man comics I read as a kid. I don't see any of the story elements from Spider-Man's story. I don't see a Peter Parker who is working towards becoming his own independent man. I don't see a man who understands what with great power comes great responsibility is. And I don't see a boy getting ready to take on man-sized responsibilities as he becomes Spider-Man. I don't see any of that in the first film, which was Homecoming, and I didn't see any of that in this Far From Home trailer, because when I look at this story, it's just so derivative that it's going so far from the source material, it's just not funny. Spider-Man's world is New York. He is supposed to be the Tarzan of the urban jungle with his web swinging, and we have not seen any of that in these films whatsoever. So that's one of the things that's really a peeve to me as related to this film, is that we haven't seen anything related to who Spider-Man is or Spider-Man's story in this story. Because when I looked at this trailer, I immediately thought, when I saw Nick Fury shoot the fat friend with the dart, I said, this is Agent Cody Banks, and Samuel L. Jackson is playing Keith David's role from Agent Cody Banks. He's being recruited for a mission by Nick Fury to go on, and we're going to have Agent Cody Banks now going out here to take on the bad guys. And that's really sad, because Disney is supposed to have all these resources and all these tools, yet they couldn't go out of their way to hire a screenwriter to write them a Spider-Man story. I mean, you have Mysterio, a great villain, and you don't want to feature him in a story set in gritty New York where Spider-Man and Mysterio fight. No, you come up with this overcomplicated and elaborate plot line where he's supposed to be going all the way over to Europe to get away from all the problems that have happened in the Avengers Infinity War, and we're supposed to believe that this is supposed to be some sort of escape. And what's really sad is we're not getting the escape people wanted, which was a Spider-Man story in this Spider-Man Far From Home. What this title really means to me is that Disney is far from home. They are very lost as related to these Marvel properties, and they're starting to head towards a really bad road as related to these Marvel properties, because when you have people taking derivatives of the material and deviating from the source material, we're starting to head into the zone that 2004's Catwoman was in. Because when I look at Spider-Man Far From Home, it reminds me a lot of 2004's Catwoman in that it is not true to the character, it is not true to the source material, it's creating its own story, and that story isn't very good, because if you have to rip off Agent Cody Banks, that shows that your writers really don't know what they're doing, and they're more interested in creating a Disney sitcom version of Spider-Man instead of giving us an action-packed Spider-Man related story. So when I look at this movie, it's like an oversized Disney sitcom, and that's not what people want to pay money for. Even worse, when I look at this oversized Disney sitcom, I see them trying to push further identity politics in this story, and it looks like this is really them revving up the engine of SJW Marvel. Now, there were hints of that SJW Marvel in the first Spider-Man Homecoming, and that was one of the reasons why I left that movie when I was at the Magic Johnson to watch it extremely angry. That was one of the first films that actually made me mad after I watched it, and the reason why I was mad after I watched it, because again, there was no Spider-Man in this movie. Yes, there was a kid in a Spider-Man suit, but there was nothing resembling Peter Parker, the character, or Peter Parker's story on that screen. With Sam Raimi's movies, we got Peter Parker, the character, definitely in the first Spider-Man, and part of Spider-Man 2, we got to see the real Peter Parker as he was depicted in the comics in Raimi's movies. But in these Disney movies, what we're getting is Zack and Cody, or one of these other Disney characters, Even Stevens, or whoever it is, because I don't know who is on that screen, but it ain't Spider-Man. Because when I look at this trailer, it just looks like one of these Disney movies repackaged to make it look like they're making some sort of superhero movie, but there's very little superhero in it. It's more Agent Cody Banks, more Disney sitcom, and that's not what people want to see in a Spider-Man movie. Yes, they've got some special effects here, but again, these are so off the shelf these days with these Marvel Studios movies, it's just not funny, and it just shows how comfortable and complacent Marvel Studios has gotten over the last 10 years. They really are not trying to be innovative anymore. They're not really trying to be creative anymore. They're not really stepping up to the challenge anymore, and they're not really trying to give you some inspired visuals and some rich multi-dimensional characterizations. This film is so bland and generic, it's just not funny. It's not a superhero movie. It's not even a quality superhero movie. It's just as mediocre as Captain Marvel, and it shows what I was talking about in previous videos regarding the quality at Marvel Studios, how it is on the decline. And the reason why it is on the decline is because your Kevin Feige is comfortable. The people who work at Marvel Studios are comfortable, and they've taken their audience for granted. This film is just not the best work Marvel Studios has ever produced. It's just another generic film, and when I look at the quality of this trailer, it's not giving me much hope for the MCU after Avengers Endgame, and I think Endgame should be the end for most Marvel Studios fans, because it's clear to me that they've just given up over at Marvel Studios. They don't care anymore. They're comfortable, and they don't really care about the quality of their films. So when I look at this trailer, I just see so much comfort and complacency on screen that it shows me that Marvel Studios is in decline, and with them getting ready to head towards the SJW Marvel route, as related to some of the cringeworthy lines, like the line that Zendaya uses when she's talking to Peter Parker, and some of the actions that are taken with this plot, again with the Nick Fury recruiting Spider-Man, it all just shows me a studio that is in serious trouble, a studio that has taken itself for granted, taken its audience for granted, and is no longer interested in producing great films. It's all about making money, and it's all about making money on those who just want to watch characters but aren't interested in compelling stories. So when I look at this Spider-Man Far From Home, I see a film I'm going to pass on because it just doesn't look that good. and I see a studio that most people should start passing on, because it's clear to me they have lost their way. I mean, when they say Far From Home on the title, it looks like Marvel Studios is far from home. They have lost focus, they have lost direction, and they look like they're headed on a really bad road. Because when I look at that, at what was put on that screen, it just wasn't quality, and it showed me another reason why to skip Avengers Endgame, because we already know what the ending is, and it's been spoiled by this Far From Home, a film that you should just stay far away from, as I see it, and a film I plan on staying far away from when it hits the theaters. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to try some of my SJS Direct publications, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.